to the wisdom flow. Revenue ramp, let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to Revrat AI podcast. I'm Arushi. I'm your host for today's session and the founder's office at Revrat.ai. Today, we are stepping into a space that affects millions of Indians, insurance. So, for starters, despite being a 1.4 billion strong country, insurance penetration is still pretty low for us, around 4% compared to the global average of 7%. This clearly means that there's a huge chunk of Indians that are still underinsured, which opens up massive opportunities. For most customers, insurance is confusing. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of technical jargon, and sometimes everything seems very intimidating. And for companies offering insurance, it's about navigating regulation, drop-offs, customer trust, all of this while going digital. Now, our guest today has been at the center of this transformation. I'm super happy to welcome Himanshu Sikka. He is the AVP of Digital Products at Access Max Life Insurance, where for nearly 6 years, he's been leading in charge digital products and e-commerce. His team has played a key role in reimagining how insurance is bought and experienced. Thank you for coming in today, Himanshu.
Welcome. Thank you guys for inviting me for this.
And alongside Himanshu, we have somebody who has been building AI agents to solve similar problems in the whole of BFSI. We have Mayan Consult with us. He takes care of product at Revran.ai. Previously, he also co-founded InsureStack.ai, where the company was building generative AI solutions like InsureGPT for the insurance space. Thanks for tuning in, Mayan.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So let's get started. Now, Himanshu, let's start by understanding your story a bit. Previously, you were at Paisa Bazaar, shaping digital distribution for credit cards and then mutual funds. And now you've spent nearly 6 years at Access Max Life. How did this transition happen?
So I think I'll give credit to destiny a bit. When I was in Paisa Bazaar, I was working on a banking product, credit card to be specific there, and then moved on to mutual fund at the latter half of my stint in Paisa Bazaar. So in Paisa Life was more of a distributor kind of a model where we created a platform where a customer could come in and compare products and go ahead with an application for these particular products. I think somewhere down the line, I figured that I wanted to experience much more how the customer lifecycle actually gets impacted in BFSI sector, and somehow luckily I got an opportunity to work with Access Math Life, and it has changed my perspective of product a lot ever since, especially when you can control or can know about the customer so much, and you are a OEM of sorts. Right, we are the one that is ensuring the risk of the customer. Wherein my earlier stint, it was always the bank who used to take care of all the product sourcing. So yeah, that is how the transition has happened, and lucky to be part of this ecosystem.
Amazing. So, like you just mentioned, right, everything has been a really different experience for you transitioning from credit cards and mutual funds and then to insurance. Now, here at your current stint, you've grown, from a senior PM to AVP. How has your approach towards product evolved over these years? And during your whole tenure, every PM has to make a lot of tough calls and, the calls that change their approach over time. So for you, what was that point here? What has that point been over the years?
Okay, so interesting question. So first of all, I think you mentioned how I've transitioned in the last 6 years from a senior PM to an AVP, how things have changed. So I'll tell you honestly, when I joined, I was pretty young at the product function itself. I was an individual contributor, hustling to deliver features rather than experience, to be honest, ensuring stakeholders are happy and everything goes live ASAP. But now I think things are much more steadied. It's more about solving a problem with different teams. In our working culture, we work with different cross-functional teams, sit together, brainstorm on a problem, try to figure out a solution, and then also creating an ecosystem for the team where they can think of solutions rather than jumping onto conclusions and doing something that is not right for the customers. I think that is how the approach has changed in over last 6 years. And I think I'll give credit to Access Max Life for that kind of nurturing that they have provided me in last 6 years. When you talk about inflection point, I think it happened pretty early in my stint at Access Max Life or career at Access Max Life, where I was rushing to deploy a feature, like I mentioned. And like all PMs do, they get biased towards their feature, thinking that everything is going to be all right. But when we deployed it, we realized that our funnel tanked and gave me a learning that I think you should pace it down. You can take approaches like A/B testing or a phase rollout rather than going all hog towards a feature where you feel that it will do wonders for the customer, but the customer feels otherwise. So whenever you are taking a risk, I think it's important to view with that lens as well, that how the business would be impacted once a feature is rolled out 100% of the customer. I think that maturity has come over time where instead of rushing for things, I've tried to take it slow, tried to take a measured approach, tried to take everybody together with their perspectives rather than only brute forcing my ideas or perspective.
Sounds amazing. Like over time, you just take time to absorb all of the changes that have happened while you grew in the role. Mine, I have, a similar question for you. I mean, you also changed industries, right? Not major, but like quite different. You went from insurance and now to mostly lending and fintech. How has this transition been for you?
Right. So I think when I was working as InsurTech, right, when we started InsurTech, the core problems that we were trying to solve were around, the insurance core problem, right, the core trust problem in insurance, and the solutions would be around, policy simplification, right, comparisons for that matter, right, and the whole service journey from there on, right, versus. So if you try to do a very apple to apple comparison, what I understood is lending is a very pull, business, right? So what that creates is that top of the funnel is not a problem, right? So of course, BFSI will have that trust building, right? But it's a very different approach to trust because insurance is push driven and it's almost like educating or education is part of selling insurance, right? So it's not just a transactional product in that sense, right? There is as much educating the customer as much there is trying to sell the insurance part as well, right? So uh, so what I understood was that in insurance, the friction of, let's say onboarding part is almost psychological as well, right? Versus in lending, there is objectivity. So the customer is trying to understand, why your processing fees so and so, right? So, or why I'm getting less disbursed amount. When I took a loan of, let's say, X amount, my disbursal amount is less. So there is more objectivity, especially in the context of lending, right? Versus I think in insurance, as I mentioned, right? So I think trust is a very different ball game in both the products, and of course, lending is not. It's not just lending in BFSI, but when we're talking apple to apple, I think that's what my understanding so far has been.
All right. Now let's try to go deeper into the agenda that we thought today, which is insurance. Now let's try to break insurance a bit further. I mean, it's quite jargon heavy and trust sensitive. I personally used to think that customer journeys were quite similar in lending and in insurance, but they're almost the opposite. Now, Himanshu, you have worked on both ends, right? Credit cards on one end, wherein if you go outside today to give credit to somebody, nobody would say no because everybody in India wants credit. Whereas on the other end, insurance products are where people, including me, are quite hesitant in picking one. So let's just try to break this thing down. Can you tell me over the years how does user acquisition differ for both lending and insurance, and which one has been more interesting for you while you have worked at these two stints?
Okay, so I'll be honest. So my lending stint was over 7 years ago. So I think things have changed a lot in lending. But back then, I think lending journeys or proposition were much more simpler than, say, insurance. Primarily because, see, what is lending? Lending is basically you make an application, people do a KYC check, people do a credit check, and as per your credit profile and your overall profile, they disburse a personal loan or they issue a credit card as per the bank's or the NBFC's policies, right? In insurance, it's little more trickier because the relationship is anywhere. It's a long term relationship, first of all, anywhere between 20-30 years. So in that case, it is very important for the insurer to know the customer. They do a KYC. There has to be a bridge bit for the trust deficit that there is always in the insurance industry. So you try to overcome that through journeys, through educating the customer, through doing smart nudges to the customer, telling them what kind of product they are purchasing, avoid mis-selling. Then once that is done, once the customer has made the decision, there's a payment leg which is not there initially in lending industry, right? You're getting the money, you're not paying for it. You were paying, say, after some time or however your amortization schedule is. But in insurance, you purchase it upfront. It's a long-term commitment. There's a persistency angle to it, which comes in later once the policy is issued and stated to you. There are credit checks, risk checks. There are medical scheduling that needs to be done by the third party, whoever the insurer has tied up with. So it's a very long drawn onboarding process for insurance, and that is where they differ. A lot of components for a product manager to own everything, see everything in motion, working together seamlessly in synchronized way. I think it's a bigger learning for me in insurance segment. That was my earlier stint in the lending space, and it's a ever evolving state. Also, given the regulator is very active in this particular field, always thinking for the customer, so there are always new nuances, new changes coming in, which we as an insurer have to comply and pass on the benefits to the customer. So it is quite an engaging space and very active space.
So you just mentioned that the whole cycle, the user journey is very long here. So I mean, right from discovery, comparison, onboarding, medicals, to payouts, the whole journey. Where do you see the biggest customer drop-offs happening in your experience?
In the customer life cycle, I feel there are two areas where the maximum drop-offs happen. The first one would be where the customer is contemplating or discovering the plan or the insurance plan, what they want to take, comparing different insurers. So that would be the first piece where much of the drop-off happens. The second would be at the payment stage, where customer has decided to pay or is still contemplating should I pay or not, because the ticket size for some of the plans is pretty high. So that's a long-term commitment. So there we feel that these are two areas where I feel that maximum drop-off happens for a customer purchasing an insurance. Once the payment is done, I think customer is also more hooked to complete the application, complete the process, do the medical, give the documents, and get their risk covered as soon as possible. But yeah, initially once the discovery is happening and one where the payment is being done by the customer, that's I think two areas where drop-offs happen the most.
So I was asking that why do you think these drop-offs happen really? I mean, I know there's a lot of jargon that pushes people away, but like because you've worked here, so is it the complexity, trust, or I don't know, clarity? What is it that makes these drop-offs happen? If you can tell us about some specific challenges you faced and try to solve in this area.
Okay, say for example, people are also not aware much what kind of insurance plan they need. For example, I'll tell you about term insurance, right? How much coverage do I need, right? What's the right add-on that I should take as a customer, right? So these kind of information generally customer is not handy first time. And that's where insurers also come in, where they educate the customer. Say, for example, there was a campaign sometime back where telling the customer that your life should be worth at least 10 times your annual income, right? Giving them a ballpark number that what should they aim for. Again, what kind of riders do you want? Do you want a critical illness cover or not? How the pricing affects these add-ons is something the customer is not aware much, and that is where educating the customer, creating simpler journeys where they can understand what are they purchasing actually, and reading the fine line or understanding the fine line is something that helps the customer now, and that is where the journeys are also evolving in insurance sector, where they're much more easier on the eye, on the language. Earlier, the language used to be very legal in very legal terms and very complex, and now it is much more simpler on making the customer understand what they're actually getting. So yeah.
Are there any changes, major changes that have happened over the last 6 years that you've been in this space? Basically, any things which have lowered the barrier of entry for users into buying insurance products?
I think a lot of them. Say the whole India stack coming into the frame has made KYC very, very simple. Right, earlier you used to collect documents, now you just have to put key in your Aadhaar OTP and all your KYC is fetched. UPI has been a great enabler. Increasing the ticket size of UPI has been a great enabler for enabling large ticket size insurance purchases. Right. When you talk about in payments again, setting up of mandates or SI has been a game changer. Right, has helped insurers improve persistency a lot. Recently, GST being completely removed from insurance policies has helped the sector a lot. Right, customers are flocking to purchase the plan because they have become cheaper and gives more value to the customer. So yeah, these changes by the regulator ecosystem has helped insurance sector a lot.
Amazing. And I hope these changes keep on coming in. Now, I mean, it might be too soon for this, but when you zoom out of the whole equation and you zoom out of, the space, do you see Indian insurance customers today as digitally empowered or still hesitant? I mean, of course, digitally we have progressed so much. I mean, everybody is using UPI to pay for transactions. But from an insurance angle, do you think we are ready digitally, or whether there's a lot more to be done?
So I'll answer it in two ways. See, one is the discovery part, right? Even if the transaction is happening, say offline, but a lot of discovery, information seeking by the customer has moved online. We see it through our digital searches that are happening. We see it through our digital intent of the customer. So that has increased a lot in the years gone by. And when I talk about transactions, I think the needle has moved a lot ever since COVID. A lot of people have started adopting digital as a primary source of medium to transact heavily. And especially, like I mentioned earlier, all the policies that have been changed by the government, say KYC is one, UPI is one, and as well as making the journey simpler by the insurer. Say instead of going for complete medical test for an insurance policy, people have gone for video medical, which are much more simpler, easier, quicker. So that is how the industry is also evolving to support more and more people purchasing online. So yeah, I feel there's a huge shift from earlier where people used to be dominant in purchasing plans offline to now moving to online space. Say, why do you talk only about life insurance? Look at general insurance, right? Health, motor, travel insurance. Everything is gone digital. It's there on a click away. Uh, I take travel insurance like what, a day before boarding a flight, right? So that is how things have evolved digitally in the insurance sector. And it is not only that the younger generation is opting for this. We've seen people above 40, 45, people who take retirement plans coming onto our platform and purchasing it online. So yeah, there's a much more bigger uptake of the digital platform that sees to AI.
I mean, what I've seen is that uh, there's a huge mindset change as well that needs to take place in India. Right? I mean, we have a low penetration of insurance in India. Like I spoke in the beginning, it's 4% compared to the global average, which is 7%. Um, like I think, I mean, I'm not sure how the mindset is going to change over the years. Like the barriers have been lowered. So for example, if I have to go for an international trip, so I need to buy an insurance for that. So like you just mentioned, right, I buy it one day prior. I still feel that on the insurance front, a lot of push factor is needed to kind of make people buy insurance plans. Um, what is your thought on this? I mean, on the mindset shift that kind of needs to take place, because insurance is extremely, extremely important nowadays. But maybe people don't realize the importance of it until unless it is like absolutely necessary, or some event has taken place wherein they regret, oh, I should have taken insurance. Or like you must have seen a lot of reactions of how people behave in an insurance, how we users behave. Any specific patterns that you've seen over the years around the users, how they react to insurance? If there's anything you can talk about here.
Okay, so first of all, when you talk about nudging the customer to to get an insurance plan, I think what worked beautifully in mutual fund industry where I was earlier was how the regulatory body used to run campaigns telling the customers how mutual fund sahi hai, right? You must remember those
Yeah.
campaigns. Yeah, so I think that did a wonderful job in that particular industry where it nudged people to do investments from move their investment from, say, fixed deposit to a mutual fund, do a SIP, right? So I think that kind of nudge is also required in the industry, which has started to happen. If you uh, look at various campaigns that have started recently, I think there's a nudge uh, from the regulator, from the insurance as a industry, where they are promoting that why insurance is important. It's very important to educate the customer that why is it needed. You can say, for example, in lending, right? Once you take a home loan, they ask you mandatorily to do a life insurance or a term insurance, right? Just to ensure that the risk is covered. So these are little avenues where the nudge has happened. But yes, uh, as we go along, as people get more educated, as uh, insurer starts to invest in, say, content for the customer, where they tell about why insurance is important, and the customer is researching for this kind of product. I think this will happen naturally. Um, uh, and in my experience, it has started to happen where say in top tier cities, I don't think that you will find anyone who doesn't have an insurance, right? we might be underpenetrated in the rural area where a lot of work has to be done by government due to various reasons. I think that is an area of opportunity. But yeah, once you talk about, say, urban India, I think a lot of people would be already insured.
That's great. Um, Mayan, now continuing from where I asked Himanshu on, a lot of users dropping off. Um, now let's try to understand, because here you're trying to solve drop-offs for a lot of fintechs, a lot of bank players, a lot of insurance players. How similar are these pain points to the pain points in insurance?
Got it, got it. No, so I think in some sense they are surprisingly similar, but of course there are differences as well. So where they might be quite similar is that there is a fatigue around documentation, right? So that's, I think, generally around any financial product, right? You just look at your documents and there is a fatigue. So simplifying the fine print of a policy document versus, let's say, a loan dispersal document, KFCs and all that, is still where the similarities are. But the challenge is, of course, that the journeys are very different. So in insurance, they might come before the financial transaction has happened. Let's say you're trying to understand the product versus in lending, you already know the credit that limit that's been issued to you, right? So that really affects it, right? And in general, I think Himanshu will agree that at this point, while these products are complex, customers almost expect a consumer tech-like experience in terms of digital experience, right? So as if you're trying to just add something to your cart and very simple language, although the product will never be that straightforward and simple, right? On the other hand, where again things get a bit different is that is the intent and outcome. So nobody wakes up wanting a policy, right? Versus you can be seeking a financial product that is about seeking capital gain, right? So it's a very different intent with which anything preventive versus anything that is to do with capital gain, for example, right, is being bought, or any even credit is in some way there is some gain of at least the credit that you get today, right, gives you some purchasing power and so on and so forth, right? Uh, in fact, one of the senior folks in industry, right, insurance industry, told me, and you were talking about this, right, obviously the mindset problem, right? So I think somebody once told me that the sad reality is for health insurance, the best place to sell is probably outside hospital, right? So once people have being affected financially, that's where Indians, especially, I feel, understand the value of anything that is preventive and not, after the loss to a certain degree has happened. No, everything we understand at Revrat and me personally is, I think, biased toward general insurance. So where Himanshu could add on here also is how, his experience, because as he's, Himanshu, you mentioned, it's a very different, uh, customer and the manufacturer, which is, let's say, the insurer, and even all the intermediaries, right? It's a very different relation because you're looking at 20, 30 years in life insurance versus any financial product, including general insurance. The journey, the relation could be relatively very, it will not be that long, short. So I think that is something we also don't have that deep understanding or experience of. We are yet to solve those problems. So we want to definitely understand of how this long trust, long credibility game pans out when it comes to life insurance, especially when you're trying to buy a very core, let's say, pure term insurance play, right? It's Europe, you're buying a life insurance and nothing else at all, right? So yeah, I think love to understand the nuances there, which is not there in any other kind of financial product.
Understood. So to answer your question, I think the brand credibility plays a very important role in terms of what you're purchasing. Uh, you can do your research in terms of what are the claim paid ratios for each of the brand, right? One before you're making a decision, right? Higher the better, uh, right? So that is how you come to a decision, right? What you want to buy, right? Then you uh, come up to a decision that what particular aspects of the plan do you need, right? Do you need a plain vanilla, say for example, you mentioned term plan. Do you need a vanilla term plan? Do you need, say, add-ons like a critical illness cover or accident riders if you so that again depends upon, say, what kind of cover you're looking for, what kind of risk you are exposed to. uh, and ensuring that these are easy to understand for a digital consumer. See, and because you don't make a decision by reading the fine print, right? You don't go through the brochure, look at the terms and condition disclaimer. There's a trust involved with the insurer, that what they are buying is eventually they'll get, and at the need of the hour when they have to use it, it will be available and the commitment will stand. Is something that is an underlying factor in insurance, and hence what we have seen is people have started to move to top insurers where that credibility is there. So yeah, that's one reason. That's one area which is trust is very important in an insurer and insurance company.
So I think what I understood is that because the redemption of the product in life is about, a couple of decades, right? So that trust building is a longer process, and probably from that regard, as a product person, you I think every decision is more fragile because you have no like these are long outcomes which could be like long term repercussions that affect credibility.
So exactly, and for example, I'll tell you, right, when we sell a term insurance plan, we, before the customer makes a purchase, we tell the customer if there's a need of a claim that arises in future, what will be the process of it, right? How easy or difficult it is, so that a customer can make a informed decision of buying an insurance policy. Because, say, for example, for term insurance, unfortunately, the person who's buying will not be available to make a claim, right? Either the nominee or somebody from the family would be doing that activity, and in and telling the customer that it's a easier process, though it's a difficult one for the individual, but it's a easier process where their family members won't be hassled, is something uh, how we build trust with that particular individual.
Understood.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Himanshu, I would like to know more about your experience in building specific products. So, while you're working in the e-commerce vertical, uh, as a product head, what has been one of the most underrated decisions that you and your team have made, but that turned out to be quite critical? If there's any such instances that you could talk about.
A lot of them, but the one that is on top of my mind is so we were charting into a new category of savings uh, products in the insurance sector. So where you get, say, immediate income, or you get assured returns after some time, right? So you were charting in that category of insurance. Uh, um, and we were kind of and just to tell you guys that these particular categories have very various subcategories within itself, right? So ULIF is one of those categories, right? Future income plans, assured return plans are subcategories of this particular master category, if you want. No, and we were contemplating how to sell everything to the customer, right? Because as a distributor, you would want all your assortment to be available to the customer, right? So that they can see, make a decision, compare, right? But somehow we were not able to crack that, and out of there was an idea by someone that from one of my team members, that and with the business folks, it came that why don't we add uh, a plan selector, right? We call it plan selector internally. That we should add something of that sort, which gives an option to the customer that which category they want to go, right? On the basis of, say, risk, returns, which is very similar to what how mutual funds operate, right? Do you want to go into large cap, which are less risky, low return? You want to go to small cap, which is more risky, high return, right? So we created something of that sort on the journey, where customer could identify basis risk return, where they lie, and we saw that none of the categories got cannibalized because of it. We just tried. Somehow we did a small A/B. We ran it for a 15-day window, and see we saw uptick in our conversion, in our funnel conversion, and somehow it has stayed and become a very integral part of our savings customer journey. So yeah, that was one feature that all of us at Axis Max are very proud in the e-commerce and digital team.
Awesome. That's very interesting. Uh, so Himanshu, you said that digitally we have come quite far, right? In terms of insurance adoption. I'm not sure how ready insurance is for AI. Now, at least here, everybody keeps talking about AI. But from your seat, where does AI actually make sense in insurance? I mean, are insurance companies even ready for AI implementation?
See, uh, I think everybody will have to somehow use it. Our use cases at our end also that we are figuring out how to embed, especially in say onboarding piece. But yeah, at the backroom office efficiency, I think it makes a clear sense, because you do a lot of heavy manual work, where their manual underwriters, their documents are checked by uh, quality teams, right? If they are up to the mark, is there any discrepancy there? So there's a lot of work. There are a lot of use cases internally, and we have started to move in those directions. How do we ensure that we free up human bandwidth for much more focused work rather than doing some repetitive job at their end? So yeah, I think AI makes a lot of sense in insurance industry, especially for repetitive work.
I think, Himanshu, I'd like to ask a question, right? Yeah, sorry, Arushi, sorry to cut you off. Wanted to understand from a consumer. So I think you've talked. You're asking. You're telling from a back office perspective, right? That there is a lot of efficiency uptake that I think you already brought in, and that can be done from a consumer experience. Are there challenges that you think will suddenly be, uh, you know, like they're top of your mind because of the AI capabilities AI has come up with? It could be around text, it could be around voice, right? But in the journey, are there challenges that you're now looking at from a perspective that I could bring in AI?
I think we are looking at uh, AI as an option on how to make product recommendations to the customer, make decisioning easier. Uh, so that is one thing that we are internally working on. Uh, but see, exposing AI directly to the consumer needs to be well thought through, in my opinion. It is not something which gives you a lot of leeway if it goes wrong. Can lead to a lot of drop-offs. So yes, we are going cautious in that sense. But yeah, I think in terms of recommending products, it's something we are looking at, especially doing profile-based recommendations, looking at the past data, what people are actually buying, and then integrating in the purchase funnel or purchase journey is something that we're looking at.
Understood.
So, Himanshu, let's assume we have to pick some 2 or 3 use cases wherein you see AI agents contributing, wherein the work can be automated by them. Um, can you think of any such places where the AI agents are helping customer flows, and some flows which you think would not absolutely not work for delegating that to AI agents?
Say places where a lot of manual intervention is there. Say for example, vetting documents, checking documents, doing manual underwriting. At engineering front, we work with a lot of engineers. Coding is one piece where AI has proved its mettle across the globe uh, in improving efficiencies, if not reducing costs. Right. So I think these are the areas where I feel AI will make a mark or is making a mark. Where uh, I feel AI would not do well is making decision on the behalf of the customer. I think in the end, it will be the customer who will be deciding what to get and what to purchase. Yeah, I think that is something that you won't be able to delegate to AI.
I think in any journey, be it any industry, the final decision making part has to be left with the human, be it today or 5 or 10 years later. But all of the process before that could be probably delegated to AI agents.
Correct.
So,
I think the end user would always have that edge to take the decision.
yeah, absolutely. I think, and I mean, let's see what happens maybe next 10 to 15 years. Maybe something crazy would happen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, one thing that I want to ask is, I mean, Himanshu spoke a lot on the nuances in insurance. Because you are also solving use cases for a lot of insurance key players, can you tell us what have you worked on and what are the major asks that you've seen insurance players come up with that you and the team are working on?
Got it. So I think right now, Arushi, our focus has been around consumer, facing problems in insurance as well, right? So as I mentioned, so far, the focus has been general insurance and the consumer facing issues, not really the back office, efficiency issues. So a couple of places where we have, proved our value and where AI in general seems to be working out is, of course, one is the obvious place of, the explanation part of the policy, right? So not as policy, but in general insurance, the education part. It could be at different point of the journey. So even for the fresh insurance, the first time buyer as well as renewal. So basically at the retention function as well across general insurance product, and even uh, so that's one part, which is the a bit more obvious part. In fact, the interesting angle there is, I think, what Himanshu was mentioning. So not not a recommendation engine per se, because there is a lot of there is some sort of regulation challenge there, as well as it's a lot of onus on AI to recommend, and who will basically take the accountability for that recommendation. So not recommendation, but advisory is something where we have also helped in the consumer journey, right? So advisory would be where you're, as Manshu had mentioned, right, the ballpark figure as example. So let's say 10 to 20 times your annual salary is a good ballpark figure, but then you're not actually recommending, or you're not actually taking the call of whether it should be 15 times or 14 times or what exactly, right? So that's one obvious part. Second, where especially as AI voice company, right, we have been uh, able to show some value is the outbound that happens, right, to create the funnel in insurance, right? So in traditional way, the follow-up, the process of automating that is a bit complex, where human agents sometimes would miss out on who they were supposed to call back, for example, who had mentioned to come back at a later time. So that is again something where we have found an uptick, where the whole outbound is automated. It's AI voice. It's even the rescheduling. When do I, if the customer is asked to reach out, then you reach out at at the exact certain point where they wanted to reach again, or if they had asked to never disturb them again, then you don't disturb them again, right? So that's the second place where AI has definitely helped. In general, I think the whole servicing part, every after sale process is also, there is a lot of repetition there. So can you tell me my claim status, right? Or the renewal reminders, right? Those sort of places. So where maybe you were nudging as WhatsApp messages, now you're doing like an IVR outbound. You can do AI voice outbound, and it can handle some objections or some FAQs as well. So it's not a one-way communication anymore. You can still keep it like a monologue as the opening, but then you also keep it open to handle it, right? The customer query. So for example, I'm reaching out to Himanshu for his car renewal, but Himanshu says that, hey, Bajaj also sells motor insurance and I am looking to get that, right? So we can handle that. AI can handle that, right? And transfer it to another AI agent or human, right? So, so what we're trying to essentially build for from a consumer perspective is like an always available relationship manager, right? Which I feel AI is very close to achieving. And especially at RevRag with our agents, I think we are close to that experience of, where it's frictionless, it's across your journey. If you're a super app, then across all the health products, even other financial products that you're selling, it's a very seamless experience. It's like an AI relationship manager always on your tip, right? So I think that's the kind of value we've been able to deliver. And one thing that has stood out is that because it's AI, so there is consistency there in the experience, right? Like every time the answer to a similar question would be in the similar threshold, right? So the probability of mis-selling also reduces. The experience remains more consistent, and you can of course always control how the AI agents behave. So it can have the guardrails, it can take care of, let's say, profanity checks and the kind of information that you want to deliver. Maybe you want to have a threshold ki iske beyond human agent ko transfer ho jaye. So from a consumer perspective, we are trying to build a like an always available RM that takes care of pre-sale to post-sale and the end-to-end journey. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we were curious, and I'm sure honestly, from a life insurance perspective, right? This is so far still around general. So I think where we are really curious is how the challenges are different in life, because I think I assume आपका sales cycle would also be very longer and different. It's not, the decision has its consequences. Even as a buyer, I'm still yet to buy my life insurance because I feel it's a big decision. I will have to stick with that company, with that product.
These challenges are also a little different. Challenges which are pre-issuance would be very different from what post-issuance challenges are for a customer. So yeah, but I think it's a very interesting use case, especially on the calling side. I think one use case which came up to my mind was on the analytics front, or the funnel analytics that we guys do. How do we ensure that inciting is happening? It tells you where your breakpoints are in the journey, where customers are dropping off, where they interacted. So I think that's also a very interesting use case for
Correct. So with I think the onboarding journey especially, right? So we are also, because this is voice, we're also able to capture frustration. Like if there is a drop off, is there some pattern in the customer saying something? It could be something very primitive, कि आपको OTP नहीं आता. But that is what it's like for you as a product person, it does help, where that friction really is.
So actually, we also use it. So people complaining about, say, their payments are not going through, right? So we always go back, check if any outages were there on the payment gateway side, or any particular issuer of card, or UPI was down, anything. Yeah, we also go back on those analysis and see if anything to mitigate such things in future can be built in.
I have a very different question actually. So, from a user's perspective, it's not just me. I've seen a lot of people around me having a lot of doubts when they want to purchase an insurance product. So, let's say if I want to go and buy term insurance, now there is a lot of technical jargon in insurance, and I have a lot of questions before I, go to the next step. Do you see voice AI coming in here and replacing a human agent here, wherein the voice agent could personalize the answers based on my questions, could retain the context? Do you think there is a possibility of AI agents being implemented in this space? This is for the both of you. I mean, from the execution point of view to Mayan, and from whether this would be accepted to Himanshu.
I think it's a very very interesting use case to, in my opinion, because we generate a lot of inquiries, and any insurer or any BFSI player would be getting a lot of inquiries from the customer, and unfortunately they are capacitized to a certain level where probably they won't be able to entertain every inquiry, or they won't be able to give a call back to everyone, because of capacity constraints, people constraints, right? And they would always prioritize a hot selling campaign, say for example, a high income individual versus a low income individual, a top tier city customer versus a non tier one city customers, right? So these are the campaigns, filtering mechanisms. But yeah, I think wherever there is a buffer, I think AI can sweep in and make use of that, generate conversions, make at least drive interest, and then probably pass on to a human-based caller or a agent. Right? So I think that's very pretty. That's a very interesting use case for outbound calling or in this space.
So I think Arushi, from my understanding, I mean, we are doing that day in day out, but where I think AI voice is super relevant and could be actually very high value is basically, so there is a certain advantage that AI also brings in, right? As I mentioned, there is consistency part to it. From a very practical point of view, a human agent might get frustrated with the back and forth questioning of very repetitive, basic questions around insurance, right? But in a AI won't, right? There is no point where if you're asking it for the fifth time, it will say, "Oh, I won't answer it anymore," right? Or the follow part that I mentioned, right? There is no end to how much theoretically you can follow up as an AI voice, right? While still retaining that same human like voice and human touch and, the sentiment, the same set of information, right? So that is one part. Second is how much of the memory or information or context AI can have, right? Across products that you have and across platforms. So when I say platforms and products, for example, you reached out to some so what is a RM trying to fundamentally do is that they're trying to keep some parallel threads, right? Let's assume you're a super app or you're even a bank manager of sort, right? A bank manager is trying to sell you some financial products like your bank accounts, maybe mutual funds, some securities, even insurance, right? To some extent. So with AI, the superpower is there is again infinite memory and context, right? So I can retain the context of where you left your journey in the WhatsApp bot and then where you continue that in the mobile app, right? Where you are in the journey of, let's say, it's a super app and Axis is also selling, for example, in their super app, let's say, credit card and insurance, right? So the thing where a great relationship manager understands your financial situation in a much more comprehensive way, right? And then accordingly cross sell and upsell. That's where again I think AI has a superpower because theoretically, again, you'll never lose context. You will have infinite capability to retain context across different products that can be cross-sold or upsold. And again, across the journeys of each product line where you have dropped off. And, the follow-ups and everything can be for each product line going on in parallel, which is something a great relationship manager tries to be. But it becomes more and more difficult when you have more clients to handle. So I do think him in BFSI, especially where sales cycles are about trust, lot of education, lot of back and forth question answers. AI voice will do incredible outcomes.
I think there's one angle which I don't know how we'll circumvent or navigate through it is compliance. Because in a lot of the areas, I think you require special certificates or certifications to solicit certain financial products. I think how to circumvent that through AI is still an open area or subject to interpretation.
So I think we are trying to solve in certain extent that also, Himanshu, right? Which is one way to solve for it is if everything is auditable, then and if everything has guardrails, so So there is no surprise basically in the whole process of whatever AI is delivering. It is within the limits that are, let's say, within regulatory compliance. So wherever there is that line that tells you this cannot be handled by an AI or a robotic system, right? Or well, let's say any information, any sort of action that was taken by AI, if there is auditability, I think we'll be able to navigate through the compliance. Of course, it's a gray area in the sense that all the regulatory bodies are also trying to understand how to not lose the edge that AI can bring, but at the same time, it consumer kill it should never be a like a negative thing that you introduced. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Not a scalable idea. And I mean, that's what the goal of all companies will be, like, to scale the solutions. So an AI relationship manager here, if it could fit into the picture, I think that would be a limited amount of information that a human relationship manager would retain, right? But when you have AI agents that can retain all the information and the customer doesn't have to repeat what they just mentioned, I think that is also one of the major things that could definitely be used by a lot of enterprises. Now, we have like almost covered a lot of topics right from the beginning. And I've asked a lot of questions to Himanshu and giving us a lot of nuanced insight into the insurance industry and where AI kind of meets it. So coming to almost the closure of this podcast, there are some fun questions I would want to ask you, Himanshu.
I think that it's a push-based product. I think a lot of people are actually seeking such products with the awareness coming in. I think it's about time that we start to recognize that fact that there's a genuine demand for some.
Awesome. Great. So, Himanshu, I have a rapid fire round for you if you are in. So it's right questions, and you just have to answer whatever comes the top of your head. All right. So, if you weren't in insurance, which industry would you be in?
Not insurance. I don't know. Probably farming. I don't know. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah, I like gardening. So yeah, something that I would be interested in probably post retirement.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. One hobby that you're very passionate about.
I think I mentioned gardening is something that I really like. Uh, makes me a little calm. Mm, keeps me down to earth. So yeah, gardening is something I really enjoy, especially over the weekends. Oh, I think commuting to office maybe. Is something if AI could take away from me, I would love that. I really liked Kyoto when I was there, so I probably would want to go back there, work from there if possible.
So peaceful.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I think how it answers everything. I think whatever question you shoot at it, it will give you an answer. Is something that still amazes me after using it for some time now. But yeah, every time I key in a prompt and there is a response, and now it is becoming even more intelligent, giving you options. So I think, yeah, that is something that still amazes me. I think it will continue to for some time.
Yeah, that the AI will answer you.
Yeah.
More
I think the persona building, you build your persona and then it answers as per your persona. I think it has come up leaps and bounces last few months.
Yeah.
Yes.
literally no barriers.
Yeah. Thank you guys for calling me. And this was amazing. I'll be honest, I was a little anxious, but I think the discussion was very great.
Thank you so much. Thanks, man, for coming in.